Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pelleton. Up Friday, the S&P 500 index extended its weekly gain on hopes for a virus treatment. Banks led the S&P 500 index as the gauge extended its weekly advance to 1.8%. S&P up today by 33 points, ending the week heading into the weekend at 3185, up 1.1%. The Dow advanced 369 points, up 1.4%. Nasdaq up 69, up 0.7%. 10-year yield 0.64%. Gold down 0.3%, 17.98 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude up 2.4%, $40.59 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. Well, our next guest works big time in the restaurant and food service industries, or at least works with them. Christopher Siefkin is head of technology at the global payments company Xenial. Hopefully I said it correctly, working with roughly 51,000 restaurants and about 110,000 merchants around the world. Really good global perspective on this industry. Joining us on the phone from Charlotte, North Carolina. Chris, nice to have you here with us. Did I say it all right?
Yeah, you did. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And Jason and I have talked with a lot of folks within this industry. In fact, Danielle Ballou was on with us just earlier in the week, just trying to find out, what they're doing, their way back. They're having to pivot, big time. Tell us what you're seeing with, especially since you have so many different clients within the hospitality and food service industry.
Yes, I think on our end, we've seen lots of people work with delivery providers and go online and a lot of online in-app ordering. And then we've seen a number of our customers really change their operational perspective. So with us, we work with 20 of the top 40 food brands in the world, QSRs, mostly names that Taco Bell, Burger King, folks like that. And we've seen, like I said, lots of changes from the way they do business to the way they get orders and operational changes as well, using the parking lot like a car hop, almost going back in time, and all sorts of things, really.
So what sticks here, Chris? I mean, what's the sort of technology that you are introducing or seeing, and people are saying, well, yeah, even if I can go in somewhere, not wear a mask, do whatever I used to do, I'm still going to stick with this. Is it on the payment side? Is it on the ordering side? Tell us about it.
I think there's a lot of things that stick, actually. When you think about, how you as a consumer do business going forward, you want to do things that are going to be safe and convenient. And so we saw an uptick in delivery before all this started, but it's been pretty dramatic, pretty drastic over the past, say, 6 months, the real shift in consumer behavior. And I think, even when it's safe to do so, a lot of the ways that people can consider interacting with these consumer brands is really going to shift to a more sort of hands-off and less about the real estate kind of interaction. I think that's going to stick.
Well, yeah, talk to us about that, because I'm curious what it means for you guys specifically, because I know I'm somebody, and as a family, we've finally gotten to like Apple Pay, but I think about how increasingly I'd much rather, whether I'm in an airport when I eventually get back to airports, I love that idea where I get to just, order on, not a laptop, but a tablet, and just have stuff come. I kind of like that mode. What does all of this mean for you guys? And I'm just curious if you're seeing early signs of an uptick in kind of this contactless world.
Yeah, I mean, contactless payment in general is up considerably, just due to the fact that people don't want to touch things, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And then,
how much is it up? Do you have any idea?
It's substantial. So, just if I look at the numbers for online ordering and delivery, just in the first bit of the pandemic year, we publicly stated, up 50% on an ongoing basis, just right off the bat. And so I know we'll be updating information on that on the next conversation we have publicly with you guys.
So, Chris, when you think about the implications for a restaurant, whether it's a QSR or another type of restaurant, how does this affect staffing? How does this affect kind of the workforce ultimately? Is it a major shift? Is it on the margins? Because obviously one of the reasons we care economically so much about this industry is not just because of our tummies, but because of our wallets and knowing how many people are employed by this industry.
Yeah, I think, when we looked at this as this all started, my team was engaged pretty heavily right away with many of our customers, working almost 24 hours a day, getting restaurants that weren't online with delivery set up and online ordering set up, and more DoorDash folks and Uber Eats and so on and so forth. And really what we've seen is that we've seen a lot of resilience in our customer base, because they offer things that that allow for a sort of contactless, frictionless experience. So the drive-through has been key in folks staying open, as well as, like I said, delivery and other mechanisms which allow them to do omni-commerce sort of without necessarily having to have people go in. And I think we saw a really heavy hit early on, but we've definitely seen the bounce back as consumers want to get back to some form of normal. And we, like I said, have to pivot and change our operations with our customers as we look at ways that we can bring experiences to this sort of new normal, or bringing things back to normal, thinking about phases and using technology to limit the number of folks that are in a restaurant and create consumer sort of experiences that don't require this exposure that you would otherwise get. And so we've done a lot of work, looking at how to maintain normal in terms of both the consumer's perspective, but also from a business perspective, and making sure that folks are getting the revenue they need to stay in business and keep folks employed.
Hey, Chris, one thing I wonder, like, you go to China, right, and they use their phones for everything. And I just wonder if you're seeing something in the U.S. where there is still, whether it's a credit card, or people will see if they continue to use cash on the other side of this, or whether that's just done. But I do wonder if we, especially here in the U.S., become much more of this contactless society. Do we really are we over a tipping point, or getting to that point here where we really change dramatically and maybe catch up with some other parts of the world?
I mean, I think so. When I go to do almost anything at this point, I don't know about you guys, but I at least look for an opportunity to do it without touching anything, to minimize the points where, I might have some form of exposure. And I think all consumers are kind of in the same boat at some level. And so, we're seeing things where, previously consumers and or our customers wouldn't take on perhaps such a drastic change in consumer behavior, or try to retrain a customer, if you will. We're seeing that totally turn on its head. And so no ideas out of bounds at this point. And we've tried lots of things, and we'll continue to try lots of things to look for ways to transact and do business in new and different ways. And I do believe we're going to see much more mobile and electronic sort of both payment acceptance and order communication world as we move forward.
Right.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right. Well, we appreciate you spending some time with us. Chris Siefken is head of technology at Xenial, joining us on the phone from Charlotte, North Carolina. Coming up in our last hour of the week, Carol, some great conversations. Really looking forward to catching up with Boris Jordan over at Curaleaf, and a massive scoop on the Bloomberg about Facebook. It's so interesting. I feel like we've been talking about Facebook in different forms and fashions all week, whether it was with Amber Atherton over at Zyper. Catch that on our weekend show. But Kurt Wagner's got a great scoop about political advertising, or maybe a lack thereof, as we get closer to the election.
I was just thinking that, like, the news flow has not slowed down. I thought about that reading in this morning, that there was just so much going on in terms of corporate news, economic news. But you're right, Facebook, we've kicked off the week, right? Talking about their meetings with civil rights leaders. Yep. And, here we have their,
and the boycott. Right.
And they're mulling it. Oh, yeah, the boycott, but mulling, the political ad blackout. So, as somebody on Twitter pointed out to me, they're considering it.
Yeah, well, I
okay.
wonder.
At least they're considering it.
Yeah, at least they're considering it, and you do wonder if public pressure starts to grow, and whether some of these groups that are so unhappy with Facebook maybe press them a little bit and say, "Here's something you can do. How about this? If you're considering it, why don't you just do it?" That's all ahead. We're also going to get a look at hospitality. It's coming up next. It's Bloomberg.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. This headline from the Bloomberg Professional Service. Amazon says it sent that delete TikTok email in error. Amazon had reportedly, according to the email that we had seen, Amazon told employees to delete the social app TikTok from mobile devices they use to access company email. But now Amazon says it sent that delete TikTok email in error. Developing story will have more details as they become available. Also a headline, the U.S. has issued a new list of 25% tariffs against France in the tax spat over big technology companies. It was an up day on Wall Street, winning week as well. S&P 500 index for the week up 1.8%. Today, stocks gained as signs the world could be closer to an effective treatment for COVID-19, blunted concerns that a rising number of cases will curb the global economic recovery. As to where to invest, Kirk Hartman is Chief Investment Officer at Wells Fargo Asset Management. He was interviewed on Bloomberg Television.
I'm a little skeptical now of Europe. I think we have to be careful about Europe. I think that they are still dealing with a lot of issues, including the pandemic. It seems like China is surging, and a lot of that, I think, is driven by the central government. But the China market's done very, very well. And again, I like the technology companies in Asia, I think, and in Japan, I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Gilead Sciences shares advanced as the company said its remdesivir treatment cut COVID-19 mortality risk by 62%. Gilead up today by 2.1%. A sell rating on Beyond Meat, this according to Citi analyst Wendy Nicholson, who says it's a risk of being a part of a food craze that could potentially sputter and continues to face heightened competition. Beyond Meat lower today by 4.8%. This headline from the Bloomberg Professional Service, Elon Musk has now passed Warren Buffett on the Bloomberg Billionaires ranking. This as Tesla shares continue to surge, up another 10.7%. Tesla so far this year up 269%. Texas virus cases rise 4.2%, exceeding the 7-day average of 3.9%. The 10-year yield, 0.64%. Gold down 0.3%, 17.98 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude up today by 2.5%, 40.62 a barrel. Recapping, S&P up 33, winning week up today by 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, so we're excited to reconnect with our next guest. He's been with us a couple times since then, but one of my most memorable interviews with him was at the Bloomberg 50. It was last December. We were all excited to, sort of be at this big party. It was a different time. Feels like about 100 years ago. Boris Jordan, Executive Chairman of Curaleaf, part of the Bloomberg 50, back on the phone with us. Boris, how are you? What's life like for you?
It's all good, It's been a tough few months there, navigating through COVID, and I have to say I'm most proud of our employees at Curaleaf who've been on the front lines, managing these stores during very difficult times, and doing a great job because they've had to deal with demand and customer traffic that was actually much higher than what was prior to COVID.
How much higher was it?
Job.
Hey, Boris, how much higher was it?
It was substantially higher, and it's continuing. That's what's interesting. We thought maybe this would only take place during the period of COVID, but we've seen a substantial increase in foot traffic. We've also seen substantial increases in basket sizes. So basket sizes in some of our states almost doubled in size from what they used to be, and foot traffic is up tremendously. I would say that. We're seeing over 30% growth.
That's what I wanted to know, because we love numbers. So the foot traffic and the basket increases. Can you just say that again?
Yeah. Foot traffic and basket increases together with revenue, all about 30% quarter over quarter.
Wow. And so, obviously, a bit unanticipated as everything was about this pandemic. I mean, tell us what's driving that.
So one of the things that we've noticed is that we're seeing a new customer come into the stores now, an older customer dealing with things like stress, anxiety during COVID, wanting to get off of prescribed drugs from drug companies and moving on to more natural products. And so we've seen a huge surge, particularly in the sleep aid category.
Wow.
Lozenges, tinctures, gummies, that kind of thing, helping particularly the older folks deal with the COVID stress and anxiety. And that's been a really new customer base. I'm not kidding you when I tell you that we've seen customers over 80 years of age coming into our store buying these products.
And that's a new thing for you guys?
Yes, generally the medical side. So as you know, we have two different lines. We have
Right.
the Curaleaf line, which is a wellness line, and Select is the adult use line. Generally, the Curaleaf line does see an older, sort of an average of 52 years of age customer. But we've seen a much older customer coming into the stores. We've seen people in their late 60s, 70s, and I said even 80s coming into the stores and buying sleep aids as a whole. And I think sleep is going to be a major, major category on the wellness side of cannabis.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, we're seeing that more and more. I mean, Ariana Huffington certainly was onto something when she started talking about that a few years ago. So, Boris, what did you have to do in your retail locations? Because as foot traffic increases, that used to be just like, hey, great, there are more people. But now, in the age of COVID and the age of social distancing, what did you have to do, and how much did you have to do to change out your stores?
We were very lucky that the governors really went out and liberalized some of the rules. So one of the things we had to incorporate is online ordering. Mm-hmm. So we incorporated online ordering in all of the states. We did curbside pickup in all of the states. So people really would order online. They'd pay. We now have 5 of our states are using debit cards, which is a new product for cannabis. It used to be all cash.
Right.
Now we're seeing more and more banks accepting debit cards and payment processors. And so debit cards, and that's one of the reasons we're seeing the increase in basket size. Because in the past, if you came to the store with $100 in your pocket, you could only buy $100 of product. Now you're coming in with a debit card. You've got a bigger balance on the debit card than $100. You can actually buy more products. So the debit cards actually helped a lot. So it was really curbside pickup. It was online ordering. It was social distancing in the stores. So we had to do all the things, add the plexiglass in all the stores. We had to control traffic, all these things, because traffic was extensive. I mean, our New Jersey store processes over 1,000 customers a day.
Wow. So, Boris, is it fair to say that from a regulatory perspective, especially when it comes to payments and things like that, were there things that were accelerated owing to the pandemic and some of the rules that had to come into place, maybe things you had been looking for before that maybe happened a little more quickly?
Yes, again, it's happened at the state level. The federal level hasn't done anything yet to help the industry, but the states did because they were concerned about the well-being. Cannabis was made essential service, and therefore they were concerned about the well-being of both the people working in the stores and the company as well as the patients. And so the states liberalized these rules, working together with the cannabis companies in their respective states and finding ways to deliver these products in a safer way. And that's what we were able to do. Obviously, in the beginning, it was sourcing all the masks. It was sourcing all the – we converted our Kentucky CBD facility into making, the hand sanitizers.
Right.
Because we could not find enough on the market to supply all of our stores nationally. And so we converted one of our facilities in Kentucky that was making CBD products to make hand sanitizers, and we started shipping them all over the country to all of our various retail locations, as well as our grow facilities and our processing facilities where people were making the products.
We have a minute left, and then we're going to do some news and come back and talk some more. But I do wonder, Boris, that I know on the state level, as you said, they kind of upped up, and made some regulatory changes to make it easier for you guys. Actually, we'll come back and we'll talk about that when we come back on the other side. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. We are talking with Curaleaf Executive Chairman and co-founder Boris Jordan. So we'll ask him, because I am curious, Jason, about whether or not some changes on the federal level also pick up some momentum as a result.
Those accelerate along the same lines that he was just talking about. Yeah, no, it's good. And I also want to know whether M&A may accelerate, because they just did another deal, and they are growing fast. And that was one of the things we talked a lot about with him last December at the Bloomberg 50. More ahead with Boris Jordan of Curaleaf. First, Denise Pellegrini has world and national headlines. Hey, Denise.
Hey, Jason, if you have that TikTok app, or if you had it and you deleted it because Amazon said you should, Looks like you can download it again because Amazon now said it sent out that email telling employees to delete the app because of security concerns in error. It says it was a mistake, so you can have that app if you're an Amazon employee. TikTok, owned by a Chinese company. Those COVID-19 numbers are looking worrisome. Hothead just out on the terminal. Texas cases up 4.2%. That's more than the running average of 3.9%. U.S. cases overall up 1.9%. That's in line with the weekly average. Cases up in Arizona. New cases in Florida up 4.9%, higher than the 7-day average. And health experts say the state's reopening contributed. But Governor Ron DeSantis says the state still plans to have schools fully reopened for the upcoming year, and DeSantis is also defending his earlier decision to reopen.
I sent mine to the task force. I spoke specifically with Dr. Birx, and if you look at, we did phase 1 at the beginning of May. Our best test results were May and the first 2 weeks of June. We were 5% or under that whole time.
Worldwide, new COVID cases today hitting a record high. President Trump in Florida today visiting the U.S. Southern Command in Miami-Dade for an operations briefing. He's got a fundraiser later tonight. President also taking the time to share his views on a bunch of things, including defund the police.
So just a terrible thing, but it's, I assume this is going to be a fad. We'll call it a fad.
And the president is postponing tomorrow's rally in New Hampshire. The White House says it's because of the storm hitting the East Coast. I'm Denise Pellegrini, and this is Bloomberg.
All right, Denise, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Well, you heard Charlie hit this headline in the news flash a few minutes ago. You know how much money Elon Musk made today, at least on paper, when it comes to Tesla stock?
Go ahead, take it away.
$6.1 billion.
That's B. B.
With a B.
Billion with a B.
Went right past Warren Buffett, went right past a couple other well-known billionaires, including
The stock was up
Sergey
11%.
Brin.
I mean, think about that. I mean, you know, I feel like the last week or two has been one headline after another with Tesla.
Yeah.
You know, becoming the world's largest, you know, car maker by
most valuable. Yeah.
Right, most valuable by market cap. And just Elon Musk talking about he's, you know, moving closer to completely self-driving cars.
Yeah.
We talked about it with, you know, Kathy Wood over at ARC, and she's been, you know, quite the Tesla bull, but she's been right in her call. And, you know, here's Elon Musk. And I just think, go back. It's funny. We're talking about cannabis with Boris Jordan.
420.
420, you know, go back to Elon Musk. And there was just a period where I think people were like, is he losing it? Like, what's happening? Is this coming undone? And yet, he has really kind of hit it out of the park in terms of hitting metrics and hitting some of the promises that, you know, he would with his company.
If you're on the Bloomberg terminal, just go to Rich Go, R-I-C-H Go, for the Bloomberg Billionaires list. You can really go down a rabbit hole here because in true Bloomberg fashion, you can break down, you know, everybody's like one day, year-to-date gains. I mean, the only person who's really outpacing Elon Musk at this point is Jeff Bezos, the world's richest man.
Another one where you see headline after headline.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and interesting, just as a total aside, interesting the story that Denise said at the top of that cast about Amazon being like, oh, our bad, you're good. TikTok, it's fine. You can download that again. If you deleted it, you can re-download it again and, you know, start doing the dances. Anyway.
Isn't that nuts? It's
a
just
little bit.
Crazy
I feel like
world.
there's more to that story. This is Bloomberg.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pelleton. Up Friday with the Dow, the S&P, and Nasdaq all advancing. Nasdaq did climb to a record interesting session, though. Tech shares underperformed the broader market, defying recent trends. Let's begin with Nasdaq up 69 points today, a gain of 0.7%, bringing its year-to-date gain to 18.3%. By comparison, the S&P so far this year is down 1.4%. Today, though, the S&P advanced 33 points, up by 1%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 369, up by 1.4%. Stocks gained as signs that the world could be closer to an effective treatment for COVID-19 blunted concerns that a rising number of cases will curb the global economic recovery. 10-year yield again, 0.64%. Gold down 0.3%, 17.98 the ounce. Crude up 2.5% today, 40.62 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. Appreciate that update. Want to get back to our conversation with Cureleaf Executive Chairman, co-founder Boris Jordan, joining us on the phone in Russia. I'm curious, you guys just closed a deal, but I wonder if you are constantly on the look, Boris, for acquisitions, especially when I feel like the stronger cannabis players are certainly separating themselves big time from the weaker players right now.
Yeah, there seems to be a bifurcation in the market. I mean, I would prefer to just talk about Cureleaf. I mean, Cureleaf has made a decision during this period of time to double down on our bet. Assets are much cheaper during this period of COVID, as well as the lack of capital available in the market. And so we have been very acquisitive. We'll be closing the Grassroots transaction over the next week, which was announced last year. It's a very large transaction, 11 states. That will bring Cureleaf to 24 states. It will make us the largest company, not only by footprint, market cap, but also by revenue and profitability. So in the United States. So we're very, very pleased with that acquisition. As you know, we made a smaller acquisition today in Colorado that we closed.
Right.
We'll be announcing another smaller tuck-in acquisition next week. So we're taking advantage of sort of the weaker companies right now that need to sell certain assets in order to keep going, and we're acquiring those assets at very attractive valuations.
But just to follow, I mean, there's a lot out there, right? Because we are seeing kind of fallout. Yeah.
There is. However, Cureleaf is now at the size where it's becoming more difficult for us. There's a lot of states that have restrictions on how much you can own, and so there's quite a few states where we can no longer make any acquisitions. We're the largest player in most markets that we operate in, but in those markets where we're not, and there's a few of those, 2 or 3 states where we're still number 2 or number 3, and those states don't have any kind of restriction on acquisitions, we're making those. So, for instance, Arizona, we're making acquisitions in Arizona. We're looking at Nevada. We've, as I said, made an acquisition in Colorado. We just made an acquisition a month ago in Connecticut. So where we can add assets and where we're allowed to from a regulatory perspective, we're doing that.
So let's talk about the federal level, Boris. I mean, this is something that I think it's fair to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, has been a source of maybe some frustration for you. You know, no real movement on the federal level in the United States around legalization or really even some clarification, I think, that you guys have been looking for. What's the latest there? Obviously, the country is dealing with a couple of massive crises, but what are you hearing? What's the latest when it comes to the next steps on the federal level?
Well, I think that, as I said, there's a difference between the states have done everything possible to continue to build out. The federal level really has been silent. There is some discussion right now that part of COVID 4 that there will be the SAFE Act, which would allow banking. We know that McConnell is still very resistant to that. But we understand it's being attached to a rider which also provides some kind of banking enhancements for the private prison industry. And so that's one of the reasons that it might go through. But we just don't know. I think, though, that the time that we really will get it is probably this time next year. And the reason for that is that we're going to either have a new administration in the form of Vice President Biden, who has now come out with his program, and he's openly stated that he is prepared to reschedule cannabis for medical purposes, and he's prepared to pass States Act, which would allow the states to determine whether or not they want to have recreational cannabis or not in their states. and that's a major change from his previous positions. As you know, he's been a anti-drug warrior and against the liberalization in cannabis. So we were encouraged by his statements of yesterday. But otherwise, and with if Trump wins and we continue to have a Republican administration, it's our view that with you have to understand New Jersey and Arizona have a recreational cannabis on their ballots. In both states, it's overwhelmingly positive, and it's over 50% support. So we're pretty confident that both New Jersey and Arizona will pass adult use cannabis. Now, if New Jersey passes adult use cannabis, then New York and Pennsylvania almost have to go that way. They both have medical programs,
right?
But with recreational cannabis in New Jersey, they're going to be forced to do it. So if that happens by this time next year, I think we're going to be talking about 80% of the population of the United States will have access to recreational cannabis use. So the federal government will almost have to be forced to reschedule cannabis and to regulate it.
Right. They're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
They're just going to be forced to.
And as you know, we have budget deficits in every state, so they are moving because of that. I wish they were legalizing for different reasons because it's very beneficial and has a lot of positive attributes to it. But the fact is, we do have budget deficits in New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania, almost everywhere across the country. And cannabis has been a great revenue generator for those states that have legalized it and have had it operational for 2 or 3 years. They're seeing very substantial growth in revenue from those businesses for state coffers. So I think that's going to put additional pressure for legalization.
And Boris, just about a minute or so left. What are the downsides? Any downsides of this pandemic other than just sort of maybe some of the difficulty on the retail side?
I mean, it's terrible to say that, but for our industry, it's been quite both accelerated our learning experience, accelerated liberalization. New customers have become acquainted with cannabis, so it's really worked out well for us. Obviously, the biggest issue has been keeping our employees safe.
Right.
And
right.
I have to say that the company's done a great job for doing that, and we've had very, very few people have to leave for illness reasons, but that has been the biggest issue for us, is keeping our employees and our patients safe.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time. It's the middle of the night, I think, for you, so we really appreciate it. Boris Jordan, Executive Chairman for Curaleaf, joining us on the phone from Russia. One of our go-to voices on this industry. And look, kudos to the Business Week team for identifying him as one of the Business Week 50, the BW 50 last year, because it has been, and obviously nobody anticipated what would be this accelerant, as it were, as Boris just described. But it's been good for business.
Well, especially as you've seen so much fallout among some of the maybe smaller players.
Yeah.
It is interesting to see some of the stronger ones like Curaleaf continue to do acquisitions and really kind of cement their position. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week, and this is Bloomberg Radio.
Broadcasting live to New York, Bloomberg 1130. To Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 106.1. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
It is among our most read stories on the Bloomberg, Jason. We knew it as soon as it crossed the Bloomberg. Facebook considering mulling maybe a political ad blackout ahead of the U.S. elections.
Yeah, those
are important words.
They are. Get me Kurt Wagner, and we got him. He's coming up next. He's going to tell us all about this story. In the meantime, Charlie Pellet's got the latest on the business headlines. Hey, Charlie.
Well, hello there. Facebook shares, by the way, up today by 0.2%. Other important words, wine and cheese. U.S. announcing 25% tariffs on a series of French goods worth about $1.3 billion, all part of that long-running battle between the two countries over taxes and tech giants. It does include makeup, soap, and handbags from France, but it does not include wine and cheeses that were part of the Trump administration's proposed list. Turned out to be an up day, also an up week. Stocks gained as signs that the world could be closer to an effective treatment for COVID-19. Blunted concerns that a rising number of cases will curb the global economic recovery. Today, the S&P up 33 points, up by 1%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 369, up 1.4%. Nasdaq up 69. That was a gain of 0.7%. 10-year down 9/32, 0.64%. Gold down 0.3%, 17.98 the ounce, ending the week below $1,800. West Texas Intermediate crude up 2.5%, 40.62 a barrel. Airlines are slashing jobs as they grapple with demand that is a fraction of what it was a year ago. Helene Becker covers the airline industry at Cowen, and on Bloomberg Radio this morning she told us the number of travelers has been edging higher.
On the peak 4 days, so that would be Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, we're screening, between 700 and 750,000 people. So that's a faster recovery than we were expecting. And that's without business travel and really without international travel. Without those two, we don't think traffic can really exceed 1 million by the end of the year, and that's our forecast by the holidays, December holidays. We have 1 million people going through TSA every day.
Among some of the airline names, all up today, American up by 6.8%, United surging 8.3%, Delta up 5.6%, Southwest up 5.2%. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Well, let's move right to Kurt Wagner, in Seattle. He had a great scoop on the Bloomberg. It's all about Facebook. It's a name we've been watching so closely this week, and a company we've been watching so closely, in part because we've got an election coming up, and they are mulling a pretty significant change. So, Kurt, tell us what you found out and what it means.
Yeah, of course. The potential change here is that Facebook is considering basically instituting a political ad blackout in the days leading up to November's U.S. election. And so that would mean that campaigns and candidates could not buy, political ads for a certain amount of time. And part of the pro side of this argument would be that Facebook, as you both probably know, has really struggled with misinformation in years past, and they've said that they're not going to fact-check political ads. And I imagine the last thing Facebook wants is for a candidate to lie in an ad and then pay Facebook to spread it to millions of people. And so this could potentially solve that problem if they choose to go this route.
God, I feel like so many things I want to ask you. So first of all, they're considering it, right? So it's not a done thing. People on Twitter, as soon as we tweeted it out, they're like, yeah, they're just considering. But I do wonder if what's going on right now is they are considering trying to preserve their corporate ad dollars, right, from companies who spend a lot advertising on their platform so that they can get rid of some of this stuff that kind of messes up that situation.
Right. Yeah, well, you bring up a good point, or a fair point, which is that this is happening with the backdrop of an ad boycott, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are hundreds of marketers who are currently boycotting Facebook advertising because they don't think the company does enough around hate speech and misinformation and things like voter suppression. In some ways, this could be seen as, a way to maybe make those advertisers feel like Facebook is doing something, right, to kind of throw them a bone, if you will. At the same time, time, my understanding is these discussions have been going on for months now, and it's not the kind of thing that I think Facebook would do simply to appease, the Coca-Colas of the world, in part because I don't know if something like this, just a couple days of no political ads, would even be big enough to make those brand marketers feel like they're getting anything back in return.
Well, and let's talk about this week just briefly if we can, Kurt, because that meeting with a lot of social activists, including the Anti-Defamation League, didn't go great for Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg by all accounts. No, it went pretty poorly. We heard from all of the attendees of the meeting, except for Facebook, actually, but we heard from all of the civil rights groups that attended the meeting, and none of them had anything positive to say. They didn't feel like Facebook was taking their concerns about hate speech seriously, and they pretty much ripped into Facebook pretty good. And then on top of that, the very next day, there was a civil rights audit that had been going on for about 2 years, an independent audit that came out and basically said that Facebook has not accurately enforced its own policies, especially when it comes to voter suppression. And so the combination of that meeting with civil rights groups who then ripped into the company, followed by a pretty negative audit on their civil rights practices, was a bad combo, and that was just a couple days ago.
Kurt, I can't help but feel that Facebook is just kind of putting out a feeler here too, right? Doing it just before a market close, trying to see whether or not the stock falls off big time as a result of this. And as you said,
they didn't put it out. He got the scoop.
Well, you got the scoop. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, at the risk of going too far in the weeds on the behind the scenes, it was a scoop, and it was not something that Facebook was planning to have out there today. At the same time, I think there's always some kind of benefit of having a trial balloon like this out in the public, right? Because you do get a sense for how people are reacting. We're already seeing response from the DNC, from the Biden campaign, who are pretty negative on this idea. And so, in theory, a story like this and the fact that this is being discussed, being in the public, could kind of help them shape their idea. I wouldn't be surprised if this certainly plays a role.
Right, in a week that was kind of rough for them.
Yeah, exactly. This is just another week, though, covering Facebook. I'm telling you, I've now covered the company about 5 or 6 years, and I feel like as crazy as it's been, it's not out of the ordinary.
And can I just say the stock's up 5% this week? So amazing. Investors aren't running from it.
Well, it's still, as you know better than we do, Kurt, I mean, it's still an extraordinarily large and important company at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a company that touches more than 2 billion people every month. That both candidates, Biden and Trump, have spent more than $30 million on Facebook ads just in the last 3 months. So it's a very important platform for them to get their voice out. So, anytime Facebook does anything, there's a reason we talk about it.
Yeah, you do wonder if there'll be a rush of political ads just ahead of it, right?
Exactly, a week ahead or whatever it is. All right, Kurt Wagner, great scoop. Thank you so much, and thanks for making some time. We know it's a busy afternoon, as you say. Every week is busy covering Facebook. Kurt Wagner joining us on the phone from Seattle. Check out his scoop on the Bloomberg Terminal and at Bloomberg.com. For now, let's go to Denise Pellegrini. She's got world and national headlines. Hey, Denise.
Hey, the pace of COVID-19 cases in Texas on the rise. Number of new cases up 4.2% now. The average over the past week has been only 3.9. And new cases in Florida up 4.9%. Governor DeSantis saying the federal government is sending more antivirals to the state.
So we've got 427 additional cases coming. That's 17,080 additional vials of remdesivir.
In California, the number of one-day deaths close to a record high. Officials also releasing thousands of nonviolent offenders from state prisons, trying to ease overcrowding, curb the spread of the virus. President Trump at the U.S. Southern Command Center in Miami-Dade today for a briefing on Southcom's counter-narcotics operations.
I wanted to make this trip personally. We were going to do a phoner, and I said a phoner is not quite the same thing, is it? So I came to personally thank you for your valiant fight to defend our borders and take our vile traffickers, these vile traffickers, out of business, knock them out of business, the smugglers, the criminal cartels. We want to knock them out.
And President Trump not wearing a mask at that event. Regional officials have been mandating masks. They see it as a way to potentially avoid another shutdown. And you know how earlier we were saying Amazon sent out that email telling employees to delete the TikTok app because of security concerns? Well, now Amazon says it sent out that email by mistake, and the White House calls the ByteDance app a security concern. Global News 24 hours a day on air on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Denise Pellegrini. This is Bloomberg.
Denise, thank you so much. So I know this isn't actually what happened, but it's almost like someone called or, Zoomed in with Jeff Bezos, and they were like, so this makes you agree with the president, right? And he's like, that was a mistake. No, never mind. TikTok's fine. Re-download. Retract.
I can only imagine what was going on behind the scenes. It didn't actually happen,
but who's to say?
It could happen.
As my son Will would say, who's to say? So Danny Meyer, well-known restaurateur, of course, Union Square Hospitality CEO. He is turning his restaurants into commissary kitchens. This is an idea that we heard about from Daniel Hume, of course, the owner and chef at 11 Madison Park. And now Danny Meyer, who is a mega chef in many ways and has a lot of these big restaurants that we all know and love, he is following suit.
Right. Exactly. So 3 of his establishments, MARTA plus Intersect and Union Square Events, they are closed at the moment, turning them into kitchens. They're creating meals for people in need in the South Bronx. So here in New York City, this announcement coincides with news that he's taken millions from the PPP program. We're talking about the Paycheck Protection Program loans that he got from MARTA and several of his other restaurants, according to Gothamist.
That's right. And interesting because we know this company well as well. Brookfield Properties, run by Bruce Flatt, who we know. He's been a guest on this show. Recently did something at Bloomberg Global Invest with him. They made a donation of $1 million contribution to Rethink. That's a nonprofit that repurposes unused food into meals to feed hungry New Yorkers. We can't forget, it's a health crisis, but it's also a poverty crisis in many ways, especially in New York City. A lot of people going hungry, and it's a really important thing that we have to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I just remember a piece I saw over the weekend about different little markets creating refrigerators so people can just pick up food in various neighborhoods. So, we do have to remember it's a health crisis, but it's also a food crisis. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week on Bloomberg Radio.
markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pelleton. Up Friday and Up Week. This update brought to you by Witham, a forward-thinking advisory and accounting firm helping clients to be in a position of strength in the new reality of business. Learn about their innovative solutions by visiting Witham.com. The Dow, the S&P, and Nasdaq all advanced today. Winning week as well, with the S&P up today by 33 points, higher by 1%. Dow Industrials up 369, up by 1.4%. Nasdaq up 69 points for the Nasdaq Composite Index. That was a gain today of 0.7%. S&P 500 Index extending its weekly gain on optimism about a virus treatment. Gold down 0.3%, $17.98 the ounce, and crude up 2.4%, $40.55 a barrel. Recapping winning week, banks leading the index higher. S&P up today by 33, up 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. This portion of Bloomberg Business Week, it's brought to you by SEI. Crises emphasize character and partnership. One mission, one community. SEI. Go to SEIC.com/IMS. Carol?
So, Jason, we know it's been crazy for so many different industries, the hospitality industry and hotel industry in particular. So think about opening a lifestyle hotel in the age of COVID. We know it's not an easy thing to do. And yet that's exactly what our next guest is doing. Joining us right now is Sitza Nabin, General Manager, Chief Enthusiast at Canopy by Hilton, and joining us just a few blocks away from where I live, right here in Jersey City. And he joins us on the phone from Jersey City, as I just said. Sitza, nice to have you here with us. So tell us exactly what you guys have been up to.
Well, thanks, Carol, for having me. Really appreciate it. Great question. What have we been up to in this climate? Well, the project really started last year in August when I started building the team. Everything seems to be going smooth according to timelines, and all of a sudden February hits and COVID comes around the corner and plans get placed on hold, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a challenging time. Not just from a building team, setting processes, but working with construction teams and a lot of our other partners to keep the timeline going as much as we could. All the other affiliated businesses were all affected by these standstills. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks we can open our hotel. So we're anticipating early August at this point.
And so tell us about the experience that a guest can anticipate, because I have to say we had another hotelier on our show just a few weeks back, and the way he was describing, wiping off your feet and the hand sanitizer and the plexiglass and all of the different things, like, I have to say, Sitza, it sounded a little bit onerous, to say the least.
Yeah.
Sure. No, we understand that thought around those new standards. But Jason, we as a Canopy, Jersey City, we're part of the Hilton Group, and the Hilton Clean Stay program that was rolled out several months ago is an extremely rigorous program. The partnership with Mayo Clinic has been tremendous. The Hilton cleaning standards were already at a high level. However, with this partnership, they were enhanced. And the focus is really on making sure that the journey of our guests to the hotel is still safe and enjoyable. So in our hotel, for example, we have keyless entry points. So we actually have a keyless app that is provided to our Hilton Honors application. So if you're a member of the Hilton Honors program, you can actually pick your room the moment you step off the plane. And you don't need to talk to us at the desk, but we will certainly reach out to you to another program that we call Kipsu to interact with you. So the goal here is really to still create an interactive environment, but keep that safe keep a safe environment at the same time.
You know, see, so we actually caught up with Chris Nassetta of Hilton Hotels, Hilton Worldwide, and he talked about how some of those programs, whether it's digital programs or the digitization of the hotel industry, that they were already working on, but that because of the virus, they've definitely picked up momentum, and implementation is coming sooner rather than later because it just makes sense. I do wonder what you're anticipating when you open in early August. You know, you're getting to a wrap up of the summer season, but we do know that people are going to continue to travel much more closer to home. What are you anticipating in terms of occupancy rates? Are you getting any kind of data coming through on that?
Yeah, great question, Carol. You know, the data over the last 3 months, as we're looking at a market, and we're including New York in this as well, has seen a slight uptick. We're hovering around the 15% when we're in our lowest point in April, but now we're hovering around the 23 to 25%. But to your point, I think our leisure market is going to come back the first. We do believe there is a pent-up demand there. People want to be out. So focusing on that 100-mile radius market, knowing that gas prices are about 20% lower than we had last year.
Right.
Our hopes that that's going to come back first. And
but you're not. But are you seeing any bookings yet, or not yet?
We do, but it's extremely short term in the market.
Yeah.
It's 40 to 70% of room nights that are being booked are booked within a 2-week window of the hotel stay. So it's hard to anticipate.
Yeah.
Right. Well, best of luck to you. We really appreciate you spending some time. You are Carol's neighbor, after all, so it's the least we can
Carol.
do.
We look forward to having you here in Canopy, Jersey City. Thanks so much.
There you go. She'll stop by for a drink one of these days, you know, when we can do those sorts of things. All right. Sitza Nabin is General Manager and Chief Enthusiast for Canopy by Hilton, joining us on the phone right down the street from Carol in Jersey City, New Jersey.
I thought that was interesting, though, in 2-week increments. I feel like our life is constantly on 2-week increments, whether it's reopenings, whether it's if something happens, we wait to see if there's a jump in the cases. I mean, that's kind of how I think of our life in many ways.
You know what we say every week?
What?
Whew, what a week.
Yeah, this was an interesting one, and I took a longer weekend. I was off Monday when you guys had a rally,
That's right.
But I just feel like the news flow, once again, you know, has been crazy. I mean, this is what we do. We're in this industry, but it really did feel like there was a lot of momentum, and it's going to get even busier because we've got earnings coming up.
We do, and that's going to be, you know, you always point to that rightly as the report card, and man, do we need a report card right now. And I think we're also going to be, and I hope Wall Street is with us on this, leaning pretty heavily on CEOs to basically say, all right, maybe this is a kitchen sink quarter, as I believe Gina Martin Adams said, but you got to tell us what you're going to see over the next quarter or two. We need to know as investors what the second half holds and what the early part of 21 holds, because it's just not good enough anymore to say, oh, I don't know what's going to happen next. It's like, well, it's kind of your job.
Right, exactly. Because you know what? You have to make decisions about funding needs, what you need, employee needs. You know, you've got to make decisions. You're running a business, and you've got to, at some point, figure that all out. I do want to say, though, we'll see. I mean, stocks were up this week, so investors, there was some enthusiasm despite some of the stops and starts. I do want to thank our great Business Week team, Sarah Livesey, Tim Harrow, Reggie Bazile, Chris Tricomi, Charlie Vollmer, Ari Agami, Donnie Holloway, Bob Bragg, and, of course, our producer, Paul Brennan, because and Charlotte Cullinan. Let's not forget her.
Yeah, she's back, baby.
Yeah, she's back. We need them to
She
get
never
this all
really
done.
left me because she produced my LeBron special. I'm just saying. She was never
God,
really
a LeBron again.
I know. Can't get away from it. Check out our weekend show, though.
Yes, please.
It's a great one. We have some of the highlights from the week. A lot about Facebook, which becomes even more timely. We've got the Trinity College president. We've got Daniel Ballou. In fact, we broke that out as a separate podcast. You can check that out.
Margaret O'Mara talking, as you said, about Facebook. So much good stuff. So do be sure to check that out. Have a good weekend. Have a safe weekend. Stay healthy, everyone. From Jason Kelly and the entire Bloomberg Business Week team, we'll see you on Monday. This is Bloomberg.
This is Rich Chiga. He's a Chinese rapper by way of Indonesia, and he's very popular on the internet. This is Joji. He's a Japanese-Australian singer, and he's also very popular on the internet. Plus, Joji invented the Harlem Shake meme. Let me say that again. This guy, Joji, in the blood bathtub, invented the Harlem Shake meme. But we'll come back to that. So Rich and Joji are both signed to 88 Rising, an entertainment company hoping to build a lasting global brand that will outlive singular moments of virality. They primarily create content combining Asian culture and hip-hop, a formula that apparently pleases the internet gods greatly. They've only been around for 18 months, but they're already putting up major label numbers.
I think that we have an unprecedented collective of talent, a group of predominantly Asian artists, really making waves globally, which from an independent point of view as well.
88's founder, Sean Miyashiro, cut his teeth launching Vice's electronic music channel, Thump. But quickly, Sean became interested in life beyond dance music.
I knew that after launching a whole content platform that I have kind of the ability and the know-how to do it again, but for what was the question?
So Sean moved to the Bronx to start over and figure it out. He couldn't afford an office space, so he worked out of his car at the top of a grimy parking garage.
Everything kind of started here. If you look around, this is my environment. This is my serenity, really. 88 Rising was built here. Built on the grounds of LA Fitness, residence in a parking garage. I was living in the Bronx. I'm just like, damn, where the hell do I go? So I just come up here and I just kind of figure things out every single day. Being like, okay, what the hell is this thing? Coming here was kind of like my own kind of private office, basically. To be honest, I would even go to the bathroom here. I would take pisses here, you know what I mean? It's just too far to go back down there. When I need Wi-Fi, I'd spend a good part of the day at Dunkin' Donuts. Hi, how are you? Can I get a chicken snack wrap?
Before 88 Rising officially launched, Sean caught a surprise break in the form of a Twitter friendship with a funny 16-year-old kid from Indonesia named Brian, who taught himself English by watching Rubik's Cube tutorial videos on YouTube. Seriously, that's true.
I thought his Twitter was genius, from the future, just crazy, and just the shit that he was saying, the memes he was making. But I didn't know that he rapped or anything like that. I really didn't, and he came up with that stick 2 weeks later.
12 in the morning, pop shells for a living and baby gon' smell blood trail every minute road.
Dat Stick was Brian's first ever attempt at making a rap song, and it immediately went viral.
Everything was great about it, but the one thing that I noticed is the song was hard as hell. Just everything about it, man. Just it was menacing, bro.
Soon after the video dropped, Brian signed with 88 Rising.
I'll FaceTime with Rich. Sorry for calling you Rich Chiga on my phone, Rich. Brian, he gets super pissed off that he saved in my phone as Rich Chiga. He's like, dude, am I not a human to you? What's good, bro?
What's good, brother?
How you doing?
Doing great. I just did sound check.
How was it?
It was tight.
So, Brian could definitely rap, but some viewers understandably took offense at a Chinese kid satirizing rap cliches and calling himself Rich Chiga. But if a group of well-known rappers saw the video and genuinely liked it, that could at least help validate Brian as a legit hip-hop artist. Plus, it could be really funny.
It was just kind of an idea that I just had on the spot. Everything that rappers say is better and funnier and smarter and wittier, and it's just more entertaining. We just edited it as tight as possible, put it up, and it really worked.
Yo, this nigga got a pouch on and a Reebok pouch.
This is the hardest nigga of all time.
You said when you come for a chigga like me, that was dope.
Like, it's just lit, and I think people will take it as a joke at first, but it's like if he ran with that and kept doing more videos like that, it's just lit.
You know, I'd never been to America before, and like all of a sudden, just like I see like all the rappers that I listen to just like reacting to my stuff, and I was like, what? How did this happen?
The reaction video also went viral, and even led to a remix of Dat Stick featuring Wu-Tang's Ghostface.
I'll get on that track. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Really, on the remix?
Yeah. Oh, you know him?
And yeah, the remix went viral too. Brian has since acknowledged the misstep in his name and claims he may change it. But for the time being, he's still Rich Chiga to his fans. An ever-growing global audience, hungry for more releases from emerging talent around the world.
I didn't know that it was gonna be this impactful and this important to people, and I'm very thankful and blessed that it has. And every day now that I wake up, it's like it's just like a new mission every day.
A major part of that mission involves Joji. Remember the bloody bath guy? He's a former YouTube personality in the middle of a career transition.
The sound of this song, Will He, it's like a trap song that you can like slow dance to. Awkward prom shit, you know what I mean? I used to do crazy episodic internet videos. It was going well, and one day it was me and a few friends just in a room. We were casually chilling, and then someone plays the song, and it's brand new at the time. I happened to have a lot of costumes laying around, so I told the other guys, I was like, get in these costumes and let's just dance to it, like who cares? We were like, okay, let's just go crazy at the drop. So that video goes up, I go to sleep, and the next morning, everyone's doing it, like next morning. That taught me a lot about the internet, how people want to just be a part of something. And from that point on, something changed, and I was a little better at understanding demographics and people and what they want to see and what they want to hear. I was friends with a couple other artists who were affiliated with 88, and then I also started to realize that 88 is the bridge between Western and Asian entertainment, and I really wanted to be a part of that.
Joji just released the In Tongues EP, his first project as a serious artist.
Joji's In Tongues record came out a couple weeks ago. It's #2 on Billboard on the R&B charts, which is crazy for independent release, and he's like a brand new artist.
And the success is even more impressive, knowing he went from creating something like this,
it's just Taco Bell, what could possibly go wrong?
to creating something like this, the newest music video for his song Demons. Tonight, Rich Chiga has a show in New York City. Tickets sold out in an hour.
I came here, I'm first online. I was here at 1. I was the third person online.
So why'd you get here so early?
Because I want to see Rich I want to touch him.
What do you guys think of Joji?
He's
my
That's my dad, son. Did you guys cop the new EP or like?
Yeah. I woke up at 6 in the morning just to cop that shit. And then I listened to it, and that shit started making me cry.
This is actually kind of exciting. Every time, this never gets old. Like, you live online and social media, but like, there's nothing like just being with the people.
More often than not, viral success happens by accident. And then after an appearance on Ellen or Jimmy Kimmel, the creator's star power fizzles out. But Idiot Rising has figured out how to turn potential gimmicks into brands with an actual following that keeps coming back for the next thing.
Oh, shit!
So keep an eye out for Idiot's next move. But more than likely, it won't be covered on network television or terrestrial radio. Although, as they've already proven, nowadays that really doesn't matter.
Do you want me to turn you so you're looking outwards? Yes, please. How about there? First time we came out with B, Jade said, "It feels like I've been released from prison." Do you want these, Mrs?
Definitely.
Definitely. Right. Yeah. And she could say hello to everybody, people she hadn't seen for months.
It's
Hi, it's
Jade.
Jade. Oh.
So you can talk to Jade through this.
Hi, Katie. She's there.
Hi.
Every time anyone's seen her, they want to know why she's there. And it's kind of the opposite of when you're in a wheelchair and people see you and they kind of go, oh, should I look? I don't know what the right protocol is. When there's a tiny robot with its bright little eyes going around just looking happy everywhere, it really opens you up for conversation.
You've got some friends here, look.
Hiya! When I saw her for the first time, I remember thinking, this is going to change things. This is one of those points where if this was a book, this would be the cliffhanger. condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which means that I have a lot of dislocations, there's a lot of pain, and a lot of seizures and whatnot. So I can end up on my own in my room for long periods of time. A lot of the time with a condition like my own, of course there's the pain, and the pain is bad, and the dislocations are bad, and the seizures and being in paralysis and never knowing whether you're going to be able to wake up properly tomorrow, that's bad. But what's worse still is being able to count the number of people you see a day on one hand.
Are you ready?
Sure am, I'm just hoping the connection's going to stay.
Yeah, me too. Alright, here we go.
When you're used to just the same little metre by metre and a half window every day, and you've been there for months, being able to just see the sky from somewhere else, or the tops of trees, or a sign, is incredible. Or being able to have that kind of chat in the car that most people would probably take for granted.
I'm going to go past Grandma and Grandad so you can give them a wave. Now, if Jade is particularly seizure-y, she can still take part. And that's brilliant, really, because before she would just be left in a bed or in a house with just her carers. It's quite a small world, that.
Right, so there's one of her. Here, this costume I'm busy making at the moment. When I'm not on bed rest and I'm not just wearing pyjamas all the time, I enjoy being able to dress as different characters and go to Comic Cons and that kind of thing, because it just lets me show a different side of myself, and it's a bit of fun. If you can't go out that often, you've got to enjoy it when you do. Was that? Good. It's one of those weird things where I want to not have to use B because I want to be well enough to be able to go to those places myself. Like, it really makes a big difference to me to be able to go into school. But the thing is, with my condition fluctuating all of the time, I can't go into school reliably. He's written it out bigger on the pod, thank you. Today's the first day that I've been in school via B, and so far it's interesting. Still a few little things that we need to work out, but for the most part I think it's going fairly well. And it's brilliant because I can really tell the difference between today and yesterday. How yesterday I forced myself to go into school when I wasn't very well, and I was really tired afterwards and ended up having loads of seizures. Whereas today I've been able to do all of the work, I've been able to keep a clear head and not be ill, which means I'm able to be more focused on my schoolwork.
So there is my first step of working, is to simplify root 8. The algebra test is next week.
Now I'm trying to make friendships which I'll be able to maintain